it be that children are born bad at birth and that some kids are destined to be tomorrow's criminals? How do you explain children who are pathological liars, who torture animals, and have an uncontrollable fascination with fire? Today, we'll hear from a couple who made national news the day they surrendered their violent son to the state, as well as meet a mother who desperately needs a miracle to help her abusive son. And does it really matter how loving, how nurturing, how good a parent you are if your child was simply born bad? We'll meet a man today who believes that tests can determine whether or not your child has the potential to be, say, the next Charles Manson. This is a show that mothers especially do not want to miss. Please join us for today's Leeza. A lot of research is going into what creates or causes this kind of behavior in children. My next guest claims that children like Tony suffer from these behavior disorders because they genetically inherit it. He believes that what we're calling bad children have a chemical imbalance, and that's what causes them to do violent things and go into fits of rage. Please welcome Dr. William Walsh. How you doing? Nice to have you here. Now, does this mean that no matter how great an environment you create at home, there may be something going on within your child's brain that you have no control over?
Yes, we believe that environment is important, and it is a factor. However, there's another very important missing piece of the puzzle, and it's a person's inborn tendency for this kind of behavior.
But if you went, say, to a prison and you examined all the criminal population, would they all have this chemical imbalance?
Well, we have done that. We have done a number of research studies in several prisons, and what we have found is that around 90 to 95% of the people we study do have very remarkably unique chemical imbalances.
So there's actually a profile for people like Tony?
Well, there are. We find that when you look at thousands and thousands of people, which we have done, we have the world's largest database of chemical information on behavior disorders. And when we study it, we find that there are 4 basic different types. The most serious ones we call type A and type B. And for example, the type A individuals have a chemical signature that's unique. And what they exhibit is Jekyll-Hyde behavior.
Well, now, pardon me, but you say that Tony had Jekyll-Hyde behavior. He was like charming,
very charming,
very manipulative.
Mm-hmm. Very charming. And all the time he'd be plotting, especially if you hurt him in any sort of way. This could be mentally, physically, any way that he thought he was hurt or disciplined, he would already be planning to get you back.
This is like Ted Bundy or some of the serial killers that we know had that duality.
Well, they did, but what the type A individuals are really not like Tony is the type B individuals that are more like him. The type A individuals, most of the families say, well, he's really a good boy or a good girl, but when he loses his temper, it's like a volcano going off or like a runaway train, and they just do terrible things for a while, but they have true remorse. From what I've heard, this young man never was sorry for anything. But the type B individuals have a different chemical signature. There's not as many of them. It's only about 0.4% of the population. But they lie, they steal, they have no remorse. They're mean and nasty every day. You never hear that he's really a nice kid.
More boys than girls?
Actually, yes. In terms of behavior disorders, we find that it's about a 3-to-1 ratio boys to girls, and in terms of assaultiveness, it's more about 7 or 8 to 1.
It's fascinating to me. All right, we're going to talk more with Dr. Walsh when we come back, find out what is being done or what can be done for these kids. And also, we'll find out what this boy has done to allegedly turn an entire community against him and his family. Later on, we'll find out what it took to stop this young girl from screaming and going into a rage for hours at a time. A success story coming up. We're talking today about how kids may have a certain chemical imbalance, and that's the thing that causes them to display ranges of severe behavior disorders, perhaps like the Cole's son Tony had.
Oh, yes, I was wondering if you had these kids 5 years and he was exhibiting this behavior, Did you go to counseling before giving him back to the state?
Yes, we had 5 years of counseling. We had individual and family.
We were in counseling all the way through.
Dr. Walsh, I'm sure there are parents watching who are wondering, you know, there's a difference between kids having tantrums and siblings fighting and this kind of behavior. But if a parent thinks they have a problem child, can they be tested for this thing that you're talking about?
Yes, that's exactly what our clinic does. We're the Pfeiffer Treatment Center just outside Chicago in a place called Naperville, Illinois. And we're an outpatient clinic, which means that nobody ever stays overnight. And we're a collaboration between medical doctors and biochemists. No, I'm one of the biochemists. And our specialty is chemistry. And what we do is, in our initial evaluation of a child, like a Tony, what we do is about 2.5 to 3 hours of examination, including about 100 different laboratory tests of blood, urine, and scalp hair. And when we get all finished with this, we usually are able to find out the very chemical imbalances that predispose them to this terrible behavior.
And then what can you do about it?
Well, the good news is that we are usually able to correct this without having to resort to drug therapy. We're usually able to do this with nutrients.
This is amazing to me, isn't it? Amazing that you can alter behavior.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask. After the doctor described the A and B personalities, what, if anything, can be done for these individuals? Do they all just go back to the state, or?
Well, no, like right now, if you took Charles Manson and you gave him nutrient therapy, could he become a model citizen?
I think the answer is no. No, we did actually interview and test Charles Manson, and he has extraordinary chemical imbalances. However, I think his life is already ruined. Is there a window of opportunity for this therapy to be most successful? Absolutely right. We find that we're not nearly as successful with people coming out of the prisons as we are with children. We are very successful if we can get these kids, especially if we get them before the age of 14.
Now that's interesting. I wonder if there could have been a way to change the outcome of this story using your therapy. I mean, is what you do, Dr. Walsh, considered to be controversial? Is it radical? Is it accepted in mainstream medicine?
Well, I think in the beginning, about 7 or 8 years ago when we began our clinical work, that I think a lot of professionals were looking at us kind of funny in the beginning, but now we're getting a lot of acceptance, and recently we gave a presentation, a seminar at National Institutes of Health in Bethesda. We've given presentations to the United States Senate. We were invited to give a presentation at the American Psychiatric Association meeting last year, and we're getting a lot of acceptance, and I think it's coming.
Well, I think this question is kind of more nature versus nurture, and couldn't there be more nurture components to the question? Is there a possibility that these people could have had things that happened in their life that possibly changed the biochemistry, that affected the way they interact and relate with people? As for with Tony, he was 5 years old by the time they got him. Is there something that could have happened that didn't happen with Sam?
Or that Sam was so young that it didn't affect him in the same way? Dr. Walsh?
It's possible, but my belief is that Tony, if he were adopted at birth by anyone here, I think they would have the same problem.
Boy, this could be profound for parents who are beating themselves up and agonizing over their guilt and their responsibility and their feeling of inadequacy and not being able to affect change in some component in the family. Wow. I'm sure a lot of people are interested to know more, and we will talk some more about it later on. We'll find out why it used to take 3 people to hold this little girl down just to get her to brush her teeth in the morning. The rages were so severe. We'll meet her next. Next guest, Christina, who is here today with her 13-year-old son, Chris. Now, Chris regularly uses profane and sexual language to describe his mother. Once he stuck a boy's head in a toilet and allegedly threatened to kill the principal of his school. All true, Chris?
Yeah.
What were you thinking about putting a kid's head in the toilet? Why did you do that?
Because he was mouthing off to me.
Now, you're 13 years old. Did you really think and plan to kill the principal?
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
He was being a real butthead.
Do you have any idea how weird it is for us to hear these violent things that you're doing and to know that you brag about it?
Yeah.
Tell me some of the things you do with your mom.
She tells me to do something, and I tell her to go herself.
And Mom, he has called you some pretty tough things. Unprovoked?
Yeah, he'll come home from school and, if he has a bad day, and the two little ones walk in with him, and...
These are your brothers and sisters?
Right. And I'll go up and ask him, how was your day? And he'll just tell me to shut my stupid mouth and get out of his face. And he'll go in his room and slam the door and...
Now, Chris, why are you laughing at that?
Because it's fun.
Now, I don't know what the atmosphere like is at your home or what the other siblings are like, but it seems like a stretch. Could it be that he's just misbehaving?
Oh, yeah. Some of the things he does are because he wants attention.
Do you ever feel bad about it, Chris?
No.
You don't feel bad about the fact that your mother is living a nightmare with you?
No.
Does he talk to his teacher like that?
Yeah. His teacher told him he had to go stand in the hallway, and he called her a stupid...
Can you think of any reason why Chris has this kind of anger and this excessive violent behavior?
No, I really don't, because for one, we don't use foul language at our home, and I really don't know.
What do professionals say about it? Has he been evaluated in therapy?
Yeah, they well, see, he was admitted to one of those. It was called Cornerstone in Indiana, and he sat there, and acted like nothing ever happened. And then they said, okay, well, he seems fine. He has ADD, and they let him go. They put him on Ritalin. So he came home, and on the way while I was driving home, he said, they're so stupid. He said, I snowballed every one of them. He said, and you know what, that Ritalin, he said, I'm going to put it in a bowl of pot, and I'm going to smoke every bit of it.
Did you fake him out?
Yeah.
You totally pulled something over on him?
Yeah.
Dr. Walsh, is this a case where he might be a prime candidate for nutrient therapy with chemical imbalance?
Well, actually, we've seen hundreds of kids like Chris, and they're our favorite kind of patients, really. They're the kind of people we're looking for.
Well, somewhere that they would really welcome your behavior there, Chris. Now, explain to me, what do you mean by that?
Well, the odds are very great that at the root of the problem is that he was born with a tendency to be exactly like this. And I think it's a medical problem, and you have to find out what's precisely wrong, and we'd like to get our hands on Chris for 3 or 4 hours and look at his chemistry.
Your question, please?
Chris, I want to ask you a question. Do you have love for you and respect for your mother?
A little.
He has absolutely no respect for me, none.
Oh, it doesn't sound like he does for anyone else
Well, when
either.
Dad comes home, I have respect for her.
You're an angel in front of your dad?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
He sits there, and Jerry will ask him, how was your day? And he'll say, fine. He'll turn around and look at me and go,
Why the switcheroo?
I guess because...
Are you afraid of your dad?
Not really.
When we come back, we'll talk some more about Chris. I know the audience probably has a lot of questions for you. And also, I want you to meet a patient of Dr. Walsh's who has been where Chris is. What's she like 2 years later after this? Do they misbehave in the same way?
they try, and I set them straight. I tell them this is not how it's going to work. And I tell them that I'm the boss, you know, and they're
And they
supposed to
respond to
listen.
you more than Chris?
Yeah, and Josh, he's my 10-year-old, and he'll sit there and he'll say, Mom, don't worry. He says, I won't be like Chris. He says, because I'm learning from his mistakes.
What scares me is when I hear these things that Chris is doing, and I think of Chris and Tony. Whether people realize this or not, these kids are our future. And if this is what we're having to deal with and go through, I'm so afraid.
It's our problem for 5 years, but in another year, he'll be your problem.
That's that's why this nutrient therapy and some of the other therapies are so interesting, because if you can get a kid young enough and prevent destructive behavior and a pattern of criminal activity, we're all going to benefit from that. Dr. Virtue, I want to ask you, because you come from a different side of it than Dr. Walsh. What do you make of his theory? Stand, please.
Oh, sure. I think that there's so much that has to do with what a child eats, and nutrients play a big part, but also our self-image. If Chris wants to see himself as the devil incarnate, he's going to act out that role. He enjoys it. So what would be his motivation to take nutrients as opposed to smoking them like he did the Ritalin? It's got to be both, hand in hand. He's got to want to see that he's really in a lot of pain right now, and that there's another way to live where he could have peace.
So now, even if you get to a kid, address what the chemical imbalance may be, will they still need traditional therapy to work on their self-image?
Yes, actually, the two work very well together. There's a complementarity to it, and a lot of counselors will send us their tough patients, and they tell us once we've corrected the chemical imbalance, they have a lot more to work with.
We're going to meet the 8-year-old that I talked about, Grace, when we come back, who has been on the nutrient therapy, and find out if episodes like this still haunt her today. Stay close. Talking about children who are being treated for chemical imbalances, and I want you to meet one young girl now who's receiving very positive results. Hallelujah. Please welcome Elisa Armstrong and her 8-year-old daughter. This is Grace. Hi, Grace. How are you? I'm glad you're here. They went through a lot of stress at their house, and after 6 years of looking for help, Grace has finally been diagnosed with what Dr. Walsh is talking about, a chemical imbalance, and she was treated at the Pfeiffer Clinic under Dr. Walsh's supervision. Take me back, though, Mom, to a time when you couldn't have had your daughter sitting here without misbehaving or the threat that something bad would happen. What was going on?
By the time Gracie was 3 years old, we knew that she had a serious problem. We'd been explaining it away as that she was a fussy baby, or she was 1 and cutting teeth, or 2 and just being a 2-year-old. But when she was 3, we looked at her and realized this was a kid that just couldn't make any kind of transition at all. Even going from sleep to wakefulness in the morning, she'd wake up screaming most mornings, and it would go on for an hour or 2 at a time.
An hour or 2 of screaming.
Right.
To get her off to preschool or begin the day must have been horrible.
Well, she didn't go to preschool. She was asked to leave one, and there was no daycare that would take her. She was at home with us. And so when she was 3, there was a couple of hours of screaming a day at least that she would go through.
And what would bring on a rage?
Any kind of transition.
Dressing her?
Dressing her was one. Any kind of change in her life. We ended up just coping. We would do a lot of things like just, we would make sure that she had the same clothes. We had 4 of the same dresses in the same color in her closet, so that she never had to make a decision. Just getting her in and out of clothes in the morning was tremendously difficult. Lots of times we left in her nightgown, just because that was the easiest way to get around.
And to brush her hair or brush her teeth, you'd have to physically restrain her?
To do that, yeah. It was, I believe that it was physically hard for her to have her hair brushed. It hurt her. She would scream. It wasn't something that we could do very often. And, even to brush her teeth every day, 3 of us had to hold her down.
You must have just been in a panic.
Yeah, it was frightening. Because by that point, we were working with a family therapist, and she was suggesting lithium. We went to different kinds of doctors.
Do you remember being sick, Gracie?
Yes.
Tell me what it would feel like when you would have a rage or when you would scream.
I didn't want anybody near me, and I was really mad, and I had to go in my room, and my parents wouldn't really let me do anything.
Yeah, you were mad, huh?
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling now?
I'm okay, and I don't really have any more rages, but I sometimes get really mad.
Yeah, well, we all get really mad sometimes.
We're in the normal range now.
Yeah. How soon after the nutrient therapy did you notice a difference?
Oh, within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks. She was, I went past the bathroom 2 weeks after she started the nutrient therapy, and she was combing her own hair and putting little clips in it. And also around that time, her dad came home. She had basically just ignored most of us. She would use us for what it is that she wanted, but we were furniture in her life. And she saw her dad come home one day and looked up from a drawing that she was doing in the living room and said, "Hi, Daddy." And it was the first time she'd ever acknowledged him.
You got your daughter back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me 5 that you're feeling better there, darling. You are a cutie pie. We're going to be right back. Dr. Walsh has some tips of things you might want to look for in your kids. Things that parents should look for if they think their kids may have a chemical imbalance.
Well, first of all, out-of-control rages, controlling manipulative behavior. That is a child who just refuses to do what he's told to do at a very early age. Lying, pathological lying in particular, stealing, fascination with fire or burning things. All of these things are just telltale clues that something is wrong and it's going to probably get worse.
It's not just kids acting up.
Absolutely not.
Now, I know with all of the people that you evaluate, this is a complicated chemistry process. It's not like parents can go out and buy vitamins and treat their own kids' chemical imbalances.
Exactly. You cannot just stuff people full of vitamins and minerals and expect them to get better. The problem is that everybody has usually some nutrients that they're overloaded in, as well as those that they're deficient in, and it's the ones that you're too high in that cause the mischief, usually. So you cannot just give multiple vitamins to people because very often they'll just simply get worse. You have to find out what's precisely wrong, what's unique about their biochemistry, and then
with the testing,
and then correct it.
You said that patients like Chris are the ones you like to have most.
Yes, they are, and actually, I hope someday to see Chris at our clinic. We hope that he will.
Now, Chris, listen to Dr. Walsh and kind of take this seriously for a minute. This is a different kind of thing than you've ever been treated with before.
Now, first of all, we don't know for sure that he will flunk one of our lab tests, which is what we need. Everybody that comes to our place, the only thing that can go wrong is if they don't have something wrong with their chemistry. But if he does have a chemical imbalance, I think he might like the way it feels if it were to get corrected. I think he would.
Would you go for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you say yes. We love that. That's something that would make your mom really happy. I tell you what, Mom, if you, this would be really great. And would you let us know, and how long might you expect before there would be a response to treatment?
It depends on his chemistry. There are actually 17 different chemical imbalances that we're going to screen for, and some like in Grace's case, you get an improvement in a week or two. Others take a couple of months. So we'll know as soon as we get his chemistry back.
Christina, please let us know, would you? We'll be holding good thoughts. Chris, good going. Good going. Thank you very much, Dr. Walsh. It's been a fascinating hour. My thanks to all of you for sharing your stories, and thanks most of all to you folks for watching. You take good care. We'll see you back here next time.
I'd like to know, is the therapy or the testing, is it affordable or is it covered under insurance policies? Because obviously not everybody can afford expensive testing.
Well, our clinic in Naperville, the Pfeiffer Treatment Center, is a not-for-profit, and the chemistry testing is expensive, but the total cost is about $860 for the first 4 months of treatment.
For the first 4 months of treatment?
First 4 months.
I have 2 or 3 questions to ask. I would like to know what the communication is with the mother and the father. And
in which case, ma'am?
In Chris' case and Christina, how is the mother and the father reaction with each other? Why doesn't the father have more communication with the son, or does he have any kind of relationship with the son? And has the son always been this way?
Let's get started on those.
No, his dad and I, we get along real well, and we talk a lot.
All true, Chris?
Yeah.
What were you thinking about putting a kid's head in the toilet? Why did you do that?
Because he was mouthing off to me.
Now, you're 13 years old. Did you really think and plan to kill the principal?
Yeah.
I'll go up and ask him, how was your day? And he'll just tell me to shut my stupid mouth and get out of his face, bitch. And he'll go in his room and slam the door and...
Now, Chris, why are you laughing at that?
Because it's fun.
Dr. Walsh, is this a case where he might be a prime candidate for nutrient therapy with chemical imbalance?
The odds are very great that at the root of the problem is that he was born with a tendency to be exactly like this. And I think you have to, it's a medical problem, and you have to find out what's precisely wrong, and we'd like to get our hands on Chris for 3 or 4 hours and look at his chemistry.
They did get their hands on Chris, and he is back here not even looking like the same kid. Physically, what a difference, huh, audience? Yeah. His mom, Christina's here again, and Dr. Walsh as well. When you look at that tape, does it look like another kid?
Yeah, it looks like I wasn't even me.
Are you embarrassed?
Yeah, very much. I feel humiliated because it was just really stupid.
Even your body language, you were sitting there like this and wouldn't look at your mother and were really tough. I saw you backstage. I didn't even know who you were. You were being so nice to me. Now, I was one of the doubters, Dr. Walsh, that anything could make such a dramatic difference, as you'll hear about in a second, with a young man like this. You found, when you did all the testing on him, that indeed your suspicions were correct, that there were some chemical imbalances?
That's right. It took a couple of months for the family to get to our clinic in Naperville, Illinois, the Pfeiffer Treatment Center, and we did about 95 different laboratory tests of blood, urine, scalp hair, and I told Chris that I hoped that he would flunk one of our tests so that we would have something to fix. And in fact, we found that he had 2 severe chemical imbalances, which is quite unusual to have 2 different severe imbalances.
Most people that have that kind of behavior have like 1.
Well, they may have a mild or a moderate imbalance. So not often that we find them that severe, and he had two different severe ones. It's a nasty combination, really.
Well, he had a nasty attitude.
Yes,
Has that changed, Christina?
You would not believe this. He'll get up in the morning, and I'm still laying down. He will fix me breakfast, put a rose on the tray, and bring it to me.
Look at the smile.
He works. He does so many chores. Like, I'll go and tell them to go play, and he will not. He will tell me, "No, Mom, you go rest. I will do the dishes, or I will mop." And he does.
I love this for my kids.
He has been he has so much respect for me now, and tells me that he loves me, and just by the little things that he does, it's amazing. And I really doubted, the medicine and everything, but it's true, it really is.
You were thinking it was hopeless.
Yeah.
Even the neighbors were a little bit scared of your son.
Well, they're calling now, people that wouldn't give us a time of day before, they call and ask for if Chris can go to the movies or if Chris can come over and spend the night. And, before they just didn't want to have nothing to do with him.
This is one of the most profound, dramatic success stories I have ever seen happen on this stage. I mean, it really is. I know he's got a long way to go, and I know there's some time to prove this, but my producers told me that you want to do a couple things when we come back, Chris. You want to say something to me and something to your mom, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll turn it over to you in a couple minutes. And I also want to bring out Tina. Tina is Chris's little sister, younger sister, I should say. She's finally ready to open up and share with us her fear. She was afraid that her brother would kill her up until now. We'll meet her next. Quite a transformation we just heard about that's happened with Chris after he's been on nutrient therapy. That occurred after a visit on our show where this was a very belligerent young man. Tell me a little bit about going through the treatment.
Well, we went up there and we did all this stuff, and then the testing and stuff, and then we came home and I got the medicine. And
you kept a journal though, didn't you?
Yeah, and I wrote down every day how better I'm getting and how much better I'm feeling about myself.
Yeah. And I walked into his room 2 weeks ago, and he was in his room crying, and I asked him what was wrong, and he said that he had so many regrets and that he wished he would have never treated me or anybody else the way he did. And that's when he called his principal and apologized to him for...
You apologized to the principal? All right. All right. I said before we went to commercial that the producers told me you wanted to say a couple of things. This is a good time if you want to.
Mom, I'd just like to say thank you for everything you've done for me, and I love you, and I just hope we can keep this relationship. I love you.
You were here, you were 13 before. How old are you? Still 13?
14.
You're 14 now. Wow. Very mature.
And I got something for you.
Oh, you do? look at this greatest talk show host award. Now read this down here.
For outstanding performance and success, for remaining remarkably calm in the face of long hours, rush projects, short tempers, and maniac Mondays.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to see you like this. I share part of your victory. I really just feel so good about this. Thank you. Oh, it's been a long time since I've had flowers from a handsome man. And I want you to say hello to Tina. Tina, welcome. Tina, you probably would have been afraid to talk to us before because things were kind of scary with your brother, huh?
Yeah.
What were you afraid of?
Well, I was scared that he tried to choke me before and...
He tried to strangle you?
Yeah.
Did you think that he really could hurt you?
Yes.
What's it like now with your brother?
Well, he's nice to me, asks me if he wants to go for a bike ride, and he takes me to the park. We talk about our life and stuff. We have fun together. We feed the dogs. And in the morning, he serves me breakfast and he puts a rose on it.
Oh, he's treating the girls really special. That's what you deserve, Tina. Your question, yes.
I was wondering if Chris felt any peer pressure from his friends and maybe that's why he acted the way he did?
No peer pressure. It was...
He had a medical disorder. He had an absolutely severe B6 and zinc deficiency, and that was at the root of this problem. And we've seen hundreds of others with the same problem. They behave the same way as Chris until it got corrected.
Did you know that things were so rough? I knew you knew there were problems at school, Mom, but did you know that he was lashing out against his sister? That he tried to...
Somewhat, but not completely. I wasn't aware of everything. For an example, him choking her, she never came forward because I guess Chris threatened that he would do it again or that he would beat her if she came and told me.
Poor little thing was just scared to bits. Just scared. Well, it's a great update. Come on back anytime. And next time, you don't have to bring me flowers, but I love that you did. I just love that you did. I'm a real sucker for that stuff. Thank you, Chris. Dr. Walsh, Tina, Christina, we really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Tina, when we went to commercial break, Tina said she had something to say to her brother, and I didn't give you time, and I really don't want to shortchange you at all. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah. Chris, I love you so much. Boom, boom, heart.
I just didn't want to miss that for all the money in the world. And speaking of money, a couple of these questions in the audience had been about money and how expensive this kind of therapy is.
My question was to Dr. Walsh. Is Chris taking vitamin therapy? Is he on antidepressants? And is it covered by medical insurance? A lot of times people have to think about that first.
Yeah, Chris had chemical imbalances that involved nutrient deficiencies, and we were able to correct it totally without any medication beyond vitamins, minerals, and amino acids.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. But the testing is expensive.
Yes,
and I should say, excuse me for interrupting, after the show, an anonymous donor called up to their center and said that they'd had success, this person had had success with nutrient therapy with a son, and they wanted to donate funding for Chris's tests.
Oh, that's nice.
Exactly.
Is that amazing? Yeah. And it was even more than to cover Chris's test. They could actually cover 2 patients for what was donated. So it's just the way it should work. It's how television should be used, too.